Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to this Wednesday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Got a good show lined up for you today. We'll kick it off here in just a minute with JC, and then we'll be joined by Chuck Oliver from the Chuck Oliver Show, get his thoughts on Florida, Georgia, and then later in the program we're joined by former Bulldog great Lindsey Scott. But let's go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by our good friend JC. Good morning, JC.
All right.
How are you?
Well, I'm a little tired on the tired side, QB. I wish I could be like you and just turn it off at any moment during the evening. But man, I stayed up late last night. Was anything going on last night, QB? I mean,
no, they should have had a MAC football game. We should have had some MACtion last night. Do you think the MAC would have had good ratings last night?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that would have been a competitive advantage for ESPN last night for sure. But I'm glad that MACtion is going to actually happen. Is it happening tonight? I mean, are they going to play?
I don't know. Usually they play on like Tuesday nights,
or Wednesday. Yeah, middle of the week to get that exclusive, broadcast. But no, look, I mean, a little tired right now, but it's a gorgeous day. Hopefully we don't have too much rain this weekend. And then, we get ready for football in Jacksonville, Florida, Georgia. The annual cocktail party, which is going to be a little bit different this year with some of the social distancing rules that are in effect in Jacksonville. But I know a lot of folks who are going to the game, and certainly all of the former players who played in that game like yourself are going to be tuned in for sure. This is the biggest game, I think you correctly stated on Monday, that Dan Mullen will have had in his short career here, because it gives the Florida Gators a chance to go from somebody who's chasing to somebody who will be chased in the SEC East. And if they were to beat Georgia and get that tiebreaker advantage and win that game, then Georgia would have to make up two games to overtake Florida with just a few games left. So it really is for the SEC East. I think it's pretty accurate to say with what we have left.
Well, I did say it was the most important game since Dan Mullen's been here.
Yeah,
since this game was played last year, because we sat in the same exact position last year.
Yeah.
Florida coming off a loss to LSU that they played well. People were excited. Georgia coming off a loss to South Carolina. And then we went in there. We didn't play great. It was still a 7-point game in the fourth quarter, but this is the game. Florida, I think Georgia's favored right now. I think the number's dropping, but Georgia's apparently going to have a bunch of dudes out. Their best defensive player is going to be out. If we can stop the run, and I know I keep harping on it, and it's the old cliche, you got to stop the run against Georgia, but it's true.
Yes.
They're going to try to pound the football. It's that simple.
It is that simple. And, they don't want to have to make Stetson Bennett win the game for them. They may have asked him to do that against Alabama, but running the football is their only way, I think. And as far as some of those players being out, LeCount, who got in that motorcycle accident, is out of the hospital, so that's good news for Georgia. But I think he has a concussion. I don't think there's any chance he's going to play in this game, and he is one of their best players for sure. So they are missing a lot of folks. I think the difference between this Florida team, obviously, and last year's is that offensively, Florida's a little bit better, and I think offensively, Florida brings a little bit more threat to the table against a good Georgia defense, but a battered Georgia defense, meaning injured. It really helped Florida, I think, on the scheduling to have Georgia play a physical game against Kentucky the week before to get to this game. And you could see what happened. I mean, a lot of Georgia players got hurt in that physical game against Kentucky, and their offense was just sputtering. So you might say, well, how is Georgia favored to win this game with all these injuries, with a sputtering offense, with a quarterback whose confidence might be shaken somewhat, and against a Florida team with all this offense coming at them? So it's a good question, and I don't know if the odds makers are truly looking at it as closely maybe as we are, but I can't see how Georgia would be favored in this scenario right now, given all of the all of the metrics that we just discussed. I would say Florida should be favored in this game by at least a field goal. And so we'll see, of course, but this is for the East. I mean, there's just no getting around it. After this game, Florida's schedule drops off considerably with the SEC schedule. LSU is not nearly the team we thought they could be at the beginning of the season. Kentucky can't score. Vanderbilt is not a threat. That's 3 wins right there. Florida has to win this game. They win this game, you can pretty much punch that ticket to Atlanta.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, there's still a lot of football to be played.
Yeah,
We'll
but there's no threat to Florida, I think, in the SEC from here on. I just don't see it.
Well, there's not. But JC, you got to remember, this year, crazy things can happen.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't know. Yeah. You know, you look at Vanderbilt. I mean, we could have the entire team out.
Well, I mean,
for whatever
obviously,
reason.
if these guys have to cancel a game, they cancel a game, but that doesn't count against your record. So, they're going to make up some games. Tennessee, of course, is late in the season.
That's your team. You love the balls.
I did at the beginning of the season anyway. So I think Florida is standing in really good shape, but only if they win this game. If they were to lose this game, I don't see any path for them getting to Atlanta, because I think Georgia will run it out. Will run out the schedule.
Whoever wins this game is going to play Alabama in the Georgia Dome or whatever it's called now.
Well, it's the Mercedes.
You told me before the show you had some good nuggets for
Well,
us
I do. I mean, in college football, there was a lot of things that happened last week, and I have this subscription to The Athletic because it's $1 a month, and I couldn't pass it up. And I love reading some of the things that are written in The Athletic, but there's some very interesting things. I'll give you a few that I thought were interesting that I read after this past weekend's games. And one of them was that Alabama's wide receiver Devontae Smith in that Mississippi State game had more yards than the entire Mississippi State offense. Clemson's 15-point halftime comeback, I had no idea about this, was the second largest halftime deficit overcome ever by a number 1 team. They won the game 34-28. They won by 6. So I didn't know that was the second largest deficit. Mike Leach, for his part as a coach, was shut out for the first time in any college coaching role, head coach or assistant. He had never seen his team not score points while he was an assistant coach. A couple of other things. Auburn's win against LSU was the 6th worst by a defending national champion. Auburn won the game 48-11. And since we are talking about the Georgia Bulldogs, their defense has only allowed 27 second half points this season, and 21 of those points came against Alabama. So in the second half, the Georgia Bulldogs have only allowed 6 points in the second half of their game. So, they had the 14-3 win against Kentucky. And it's just amazing to me how easy it is, it seems like, for Georgia in the second half to keep teams from scoring. And 21 of those points came against Alabama. How about the state of Indiana, QB? In the state of Indiana, in the FBS, their teams have not lost a football game. They're 10-0. They're 10-0. Notre Dame, obviously. Purdue, nobody's talking about Purdue. They're 2-0, looked very good in their first 2 wins. And, of course, the Notre Dame team is 6-0, and they'll be playing Clemson this weekend. That's going to be a game I think the whole country is going to really want to watch and see what Notre Dame could do against a team like Clemson, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I still don't see how Notre Dame scores any points or many points at all. So it's pretty amazing. It's also amazing that Matt Corral, the Mississippi quarterback, completed 19. Now, this is a guy who had 7 or 6 or some odd interceptions against Arkansas.
Right.
Could have been 8. Matt Corral completed 19 consecutive passes and 31 of 34 total passes, which ties an SEC completion percentage record of 91.2% in that game they had over Vanderbilt when they won by 33 points the other day, 54-21. So Matt Corral seems to be getting it. At least he got it against Vanderbilt.
Well,
that's Vanderbilt.
He's played outstanding the entire year,
football.
except for Arkansas.
Yeah, right. He has. I mean, he has been clearly a real shot in the arm for that Mississippi team. And how about this? We talked about Alabama losing so many games in the past because of bad field goal kicking. Georgia Tech is 1 for 6 on field goals this year. I can't imagine they can't find somebody on that campus to kick field goals at Georgia Tech.
Well, it's not that, JC, and that stat's a little misleading because if you remember, go back to week 1. Remember Georgia Tech upset FSU? Well, FSU blocked, I think, 3 extra points and 1 field goal attempt in that one game.
Yeah.
And so ever since then, I don't think they even try to kick.
Yeah, probably right. Yeah,
it's a combination of protection issues, snapping issues, holding, and kicking. When you have those 4 combinations on your field goal extra point team, it's a disaster.
Another stat I have for you is that the best team in the state of South Carolina might not be the one in Columbus. It could be the one in Conway. Do you know what team is in Conway, South Carolina, QB?
The Chanticleers.
They are, and they outgained Georgia State by 424 yards in their win. They are undefeated. They have a quarterback named Grayson McCall. He went 18 of 24 for 255 yards and had 5 touchdowns. They are ranked nationally. They are probably going to win I think it's the Sun Belt. And it's pretty impressive. They're 6-0 actually, and at 6-0, that's the most wins for Coastal Carolina since they moved up from the FCS division to the FBS division 4 years ago. So they're
3 years ago.
Players.
I thought it was 2017.
It says here 4 years ago, but
that's wrong. It's 2017.
Okay, well then that could be wrong. I'm just reading it, but certainly at 6-0.
Yeah, they're good. They're very good. Athletic,
especially with that quarterback.
And somebody on this podcast right now was making fun of the Chanticleers about 3 or 4 weeks ago because you didn't want to watch them on a Friday night game against Kansas or whoever they were playing. And I said, you watch this. They've got a very good quarterback and they're a good football team.
Well, I'm proud of them because that's a school that won the College World Series not many years ago and has about 8,000 students at the most on their pretty little coastal campus in Conway. So it is a great story. It amazes me how a school like that can be so proficient at so many things, but a school like Vanderbilt never gets better. And so good for Coastal Carolina. Now, Vanderbilt wins in baseball. They're the best team in the SEC, clearly. But Coastal Carolina on the football side of things has really stepped up its game and gotten some good players in there. And this kid McCall is a good player. It is true. So I thought that was interesting. And in that game, they had a 30-5 edge in first down. So they're they're going to win the Sun Belt, it would appear. What that gets you at the end of the year, maybe a trip to the Bahamas Bowl or whatever.
Well, that bowl's out, but
is it out? Yeah,
it doesn't matter what your record is this year. You can go to any bowl, JC.
Well, I'm just saying, in a typical fashion, this is going to be a team that goes to a very nice, rewarding postseason.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, JC, we're already out of time. Time flies. You go get a nap in because I know you're very sleepy. Get you a nap in today, and then maybe by Friday when we have you on here, we'll know who our new president is.
Yeah, God, and hopefully, yeah. Okay, I'll leave it at that. But I will say,
we probably won't know till Friday, right?
Well, in Pennsylvania for sure, it would appear. But also on Friday, the Peachland Dental Picks Contest, where I've closed the gap on you, my man. 33-23, 32-24.
So let me ask you this, because you watched all that stuff. Are they actually have human beings going through every ballot doing the votes? They don't have a machine they can, back when you used to take the ACT and you bubbled in the little things, they run it through a machine.
Oh, when I voted yesterday, that's what happened. It's the mail-in votes that are coming in. And
I'm one of those guys. They're blaming it on me then.
Yeah, you could be the problem here. And the mail-in votes either are being counted. I don't know how Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin are doing it, but it's taking time for some.
But what I'm saying though is, even the mail-in, you still had to bubble in with your number 2 pencil or whatever.
You did. It'd be Sharpie. But the thing about it is that it's coming in, and I don't know what to think about that, because I think we have stated numbers that we know are on the board, and you look up there and you say, oh, well, I need this, I need that. I don't know. So this is going to be a very stressful week for many in the world of politics and who cares about who our leaders are.
All right, JC. Well, don't lose much sleep over it. Go study your Peachland Dentistry picks.
Picks on Friday.
We'll see you on Friday. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. Take a time out here. When we come back, we'll be joined by Chuck Oliver from the Chuck Oliver Show. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
Hey, Gator Nation, this is your former head ball coach, Steve Spurrier. Check out our show, Inside the Huddle with Shane Matthews and Steve Russell, every Tuesday during football season on 8:50 a.m. and 98.1 FM WRUF at 10 o'clock a.m.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Radware, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click the advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Now we're going to be joined by the king of college football from the Chuck Oliver Show, Mr. Chuck Oliver himself. Good morning, Chuck. How are you?
Hey, amigo. How you doing today? I appreciate y'all having me on.
Absolutely. Well, Chuck, it's a big week here in Gainesville. Obviously, it's Florida-Georgia weekend. You're based out of Atlanta. Before we talk other college football, let's get your thoughts on leading up to the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. How you think it's going to play out?
Well, I think you're going to get in trouble with CBS and the SEC if you say that. So it's not a cocktail party. If we don't call it that, nobody will drink in Jacksonville. My idea is that for this game, Florida is in way better shape right now than I was anticipating about, on Saturday. That they came off, it wasn't a bye week. It wasn't even a double bye week. They shut down. All right. And when you take a 2-week pause in the middle of the season, I've talked that here's the essence of football, especially for a coach. You do the exact same thing, the exact same way so many times in a row that when you get to Saturday, the kid doesn't think about it anymore. He just is out there reacting. Well, there was none of that for 2 weeks in the middle of the season. The stop and start, it was just unreal. I watched the Florida-Missouri game Saturday just for more than anything to find out what kind of shape Florida was going to be in as far as being able to, continuity was the offensive line, the secondary, those two groups in particular. How are they going to look working together? Because you got to, or the whole unit falls apart. Florida surprised me quite a bit on Saturday. And so they're coming in. Actually, I feel as good about Florida right now as I have at any point this season as far as on-field performance. The team that they're going to have with the Georgia Bulldogs, maybe the best defense in the SEC, maybe the best defense in America. I think one of their biggest challenges is the offensive approach that has been the choice of the Georgia head coach. And again, he's won a lot more games than I have. He knows a whole lot more about football. But it seems to me that that approach, we're going to physically overwhelm you and we're going to win that way. It works until it doesn't. And it did work against South Carolina last year. And it doesn't work necessarily when you play a team that can kind of muscle up to you a little bit. And I think the Gators can do that. So the approach from Kirby Smart offensively is something that has really mystified me over the past few seasons. But he shows, they just beat Kentucky 14-3 and he was happy about it. So I don't see any, change from him right now. And I know his attitude, and I know this is, well, we keep winning. Why would you change if you're winning? And I'm like, okay. So that's the goal on Saturday is to show up in Jacksonville, let the air out of the ball, and then with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, say, all right, let's go do something on special teams. So that's kind of the approach. I'm looking forward to the game.
Chuck, when I look at this game, when Georgia's on offense against Florida's defense, Florida has struggled. They played much better against Missouri. Still, it's Missouri. It's kind of hard to tell. Kyrie Campbell back on the defensive line definitely helped a little bit. But as you mentioned, Georgia prides itself on those big five-star offensive linemen running the football with their great backs. I think the only way Florida can win this game is if they stuff the run and force Stetson Bennett to beat them. in your mind, can Stetson Bennett beat the Gators?
No, he can't. There's two categories of quarterbacks. I'd love to hear your thought on this. Saying years ago, I realized that I was thinking of quarterbacks basically in two ways. Is this a guy we can win with, or is this the guy we're going to win because of? And if you're talking about going 8-4 and making a January 1st bowl in Tampa, which that can be a good season, get a quarterback you can win with. And that's somebody who can hand the ball off, carry out a stake, won't turn it over, whatever. If you're talking about winning 11 or 12 games or being in the SEC championship game or winning it or going to the playoffs, etc., you've got to have a quarterback that you win because of at some point. And that's just not Stetson Bennett. I 100% agree with you, by the way, with Campbell back in the lineup. Florida, even when they were having some bad Saturdays defensively, they were still hitting the quarterback. They were still getting sacks. They just weren't doing much of anything else. And so I think with Campbell and maybe some other guys kind of, upping their performance, like I said, I'm stunned coming off the 2 weeks that they had off, that they performed the way they did. But I think you're looking right exactly at the right matchup there with Stetson Bennett in that Florida defense, and he's just not one of those quarterbacks that you win because of.
Right. So my next question, you being living up in the Georgia area, Kirby's got the Carson Beck kid, 5-star, Mathis, a 5-star, JT Daniels, who probably was a 5-star when he came out of high school to transfer from USC. Is Stetson Bennett the best quarterback on the roster?
Well, it depends on if you're talking about winning today's game or like beating Alabama in Atlanta on December 19th. Like I said, Kirby, I defer to him. He's got rings. Kirby is about winning today's game, which if you're going to beat South Carolina and you're going to beat Auburn and you're going to beat some of the teams on your schedule, maybe Florida, then Stetson will get you lined up right. He won't necessarily make, horrible reads. He doesn't have the arm strength to necessarily, if he's in the pocket, to get it out past the far hash. And you can't have a receiver waiting on a football on an out. Turns into a pick to go on the other way. So he's got some of those limitations there, but he's just a guy that, is he the best quarterback? No. Is he the most skilled quarterback? Absolutely not. The most dynamic? The answer is no to all of these. But to win today's game, which, Saturday was Kentucky. To win Kentucky? Yeah, he was the best choice against Kentucky. He might be the best choice against Missouri and South Carolina, and he was the best choice against Tennessee. Against a team where you have to have somebody do more than he's done in some of those toughest moments, then he's not the right choice. And I think that's pretty obvious to everybody around the program.
Yeah. Looking at Florida's offense, Kyle Trask had another phenomenal game. Thrown more touchdowns in the first 4 SEC games than any quarterback ever after what Joe Burrow did last year. Got weapons everywhere. Kadarius Toney, Grimes, Copeland. And we saw what Alabama was able to do in the passing game against Georgia. Now, personally, I think Alabama's passing game is different than Florida's. It's more concept related, and Mac Jones does a tremendous job delivering it. Whereas in Florida's passing game is we rely on mismatches, and we may just throw a 50-50 ball back shoulder, and our guy just out-athletes you. Can Florida do that against Georgia? We know LeCount's going to be out. Georgia's going to miss a couple other guys, I think, that were banged up against Kentucky. Can Florida throw this football on Georgia's defense?
Wow, I need to listen to your show every day, man. That is a great analysis. You are 100% right. What, for instance, when they got Waddle loose against Georgia a couple of Saturdays ago, when you stack the receivers like that, when you're sending the guy in motion to change the coverage or that's absolutely what Alabama does. Whereas I know what you're talking about. Florida will send some guy just, hey, go out past the numbers, just go smoking down the sidelines and see if you can beat him. That is a very different approach, and it's almost like, that plays into Georgia's hands, because one thing they have, first of all, you're right, they got 4 stars and 5 stars all over the secondary, but here's something else they have. They're all upperclassmen now, and they weren't when they first got there. I mean, all the guys, Campbell and a lot of those guys who, you're going to see out there, they're all juniors and seniors now. The other thing, the other thing is that they're all tall. And that was a change Kirby made. He's like, I don't want any 5'10" corners. So if you look in the Georgia secondary, almost to a man at 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", with hoses hanging off their shoulders, they can disrupt the passing game if it is just about, hey, let's see who's bigger, faster, more athletic. That actually plays into what Georgia's strength is in the secondary.
Yeah, Chuck, Dan Mullen has been under a lot of heat this entire week after what happened at Missouri, the little scuffle or what have you. I believe you've coached a little bit. You know a lot about college football. Did you have a problem with what Dan Mullen did?
All right. Short answer, yes. Almost as short answer. He instigated that on Saturday night at halftime. That is my opinion. And I want to say, as a disclaimer almost, that I'm not somebody, out to get Dan Mullen. I talk all the time about how I'm a huge Dan Mullen fan. I found him irrepressibly positive almost every time I've been around him. Love Dan Mullen. I know what he is offensively as a play caller. Just there's so much. And I can put all that aside and say, what happened at halftime, that was at least 51% Dan Mullen's fault. And that post game, when he was talking to the SEC network, all that double speak and backtracking, and he talked about the Missouri players and the Missouri coaches. He talked about the game officials. He talked about the fans. He talked about the Florida players. Oh, I'm so happy after halftime, all of those people calmed down. Dan, it wasn't them. It was you. You were the instigator for what happened on Saturday night. I was shocked based on the Dan Mullen that I know that and he can be animated and he can be boisterous and all those other things. He instigated that on Saturday night. I was stunned.
Yeah. So before we talk a little other SEC football, I want to get your prediction. Did the Florida Gators finally get their first victory under Dan Mullen over the Georgia Bulldogs Saturday?
I don't think so. I think this is like a 24-20 sort of something. And Kyle Trask and Pitts could make me look really silly. But, the Georgia defense, it's serious legit. And what Alabama got going, this, Shane, football momentum, that rock starts rolling downhill. It's hard to get in front of it. And so I think that was part of what happened in Tuscaloosa. But I got to tell you, I just think that this is going to play kind of into the strengths of Georgia's defense. I like some of Florida's running backs. I like Damian Pierce. I like what the freshman six. Who am I? I'm forgetting his name. Naquan, absolutely. I love all the different things they do with Naquan. And Malik being healthy, I think now, finally back maybe. But I don't think that's going to fly against the Georgia front. I don't think Florida will be able to run the ball very much. They don't have a quarterback who can do that, at least not the starter with Kyle Trask. And so I think that this is going to kind of, devolve into, it's going to be a shooting gallery. And that's kind of how Trask needs to think about it. I'm going to be in the pocket. They're going to be coming for me. I got to get rid of the football. I think that's the opportunity for success on offense for Florida.
Yeah. Before we let you go here, Alabama obviously is the cream of the crop right now in the SEC. We saw what LSU did last year, a historical year on offense with Joe Burrow. But I tell you what, I don't know if I've ever seen a better college offense than what I'm seeing in Tuscaloosa right now with Mac Jones and those weapons, even though they've lost Waddle. Is this one of the best college offenses you've ever seen?
Absolutely is. And before the season, I actually said on the air, and I'm glad I did, I said, I have a suspicion Alabama's going to have the best offense in college football this year. I want to ask you, were you watching the game against Mississippi State on Saturday night? Did you get to see Mac Jones' final touchdown? I want a quarterback to walk me through this. He faked to Najee, but then didn't continue his drop. He just turned his shoulders back towards the line of scrimmage, and he threw a rope into the end zone for Devontae's fourth touchdown. I thought that might have gone 12 yards in the air. I thought it was his best pass all night. But you're right. With those weapons and that arm and Najee, it's just an amazing collection of players, and they're extremely well coached.
So, yeah, Mac Jones is having a phenomenal year, and I did see that touchdown pass. It was phenomenal.
It was all arm.
So who has the best chance, in your opinion, to beat the Alabama Crimson Tide in Atlanta? Would it be Florida winning this game over Georgia or Georgia getting a rematch?
I have to say Georgia, and I'm going to push, what happened 2 weeks ago. I'm going to push that out of my mind. And here is one reason. I think Kirby got trapped at halftime with this a little bit, but, we've seen the rare times where you play a school a second time in a season. Most recently, the high profile one, LSU, Alabama. When you beat somebody the first time, you almost can't force yourself to change things. You're like, like Gus in 2017 when they beat Georgia and then had to play him 3 weeks later. You're like, well, we just had our way with him. We just put 7 touchdowns on the board. We ran for 293. We passed for, 250. We ain't changing anything. We'll line up, do it again. You cannot make yourself even alter that game plan. And that is an advantage to the coach who was on the losing side the first time. I don't think Sark and Bama will get sucked into that. But I'm telling you, they look around just like me and you. We were just talking, wow, look how well it worked for Alabama. Can you imagine Sarkisian going into Nick Saban saying, look, we've got to change a bunch of stuff? He's going to say, we just scored 48 against them, or whatever the total was. It's tough as a coach. Gus couldn't do it against Georgia. Les couldn't do it against Bama in the national championship game. We're just going to line up and beat them again. And I think that may play into the advantage of Kirby this time.
Yep. Last thing, we're speaking with Chuck Oliver here on the Titan MR Hotline. Chuck, let's step out of the SEC. Clemson is traveling to Notre Dame without Trevor Lawrence, a couple other guys. I don't know if they're coming back. I know they were missing some starters the other day against BC. I don't know if they were COVID related or just injuries. I don't know if they get those starters back on defense. How do you see this game playing out? I still think Clemson has way too many athletes for Notre Dame.
I agree with you on that. And the short answer is that I expect Clemson to win because even without Trevor Lawrence, the best player, the most indispensable player, the blah, 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 every adjective you can come up with, that's Trevor Lawrence. Even without him, Clemson's offense can still run away from you. And Notre Dame, that's just not their profile. I love me some Kyron Williams, Ian Book. Again, they don't have 5 starting offensive linemen back. They got 6 starting offensive linemen back. I love that team. They don't run away from you. And if they get down by 2 or 3 scores, that has to change their offense enough that you can kind of get them into a bad place. I like Clemson with Ugalele taking them up there simply because, by the way, you're right about the starters on defense. Skowski, he won't be coming back. He's out for a couple of weeks. He's their Trevor Lawrence on defense, the linebacker. They've had some issues in the secondary with injuries as well, but I really like Clemson to go up there even with the backup and take care of Notre Dame.
Well, Chuck, we appreciate you taking the time to join the program. Let everybody know how they can follow you on Twitter and listen to your show.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Call anytime. It's King CFB on Twitter, King CFB on Twitter, and we are in 9 states and 47 stations throughout the Southeast talking college football every day, noon to 2 Eastern.
That's Chuck Oliver. Join us here on the Titan MR Hotline. Appreciate it, Chuck. Take care, my man.
All right, brother.
This is Shane Matthews. Thank you for listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. You can also check me out on Inside the Huddle with Steve Russell and the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier. Tune in every Tuesday during football season on WRUF 98.1 FM, 8:50 a.m. at 10 o'clock in the morning, or find us on your favorite podcast platform. We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Pomodoro Cafe, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith Personal Injury Attorneys, Orange Theory Fitness, PRP Regeneration Specialist, and Dowling Signs. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click the advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Hi there, everybody. This is Steve Spurrier, former University of Florida head football coach, and I've been blessed with a lot of things during my playing and coaching career here at the University of Florida. Lucky to win the Heisman Trophy way back in '66. We won the national championship in '96. And now we're bringing that same winning attitude to the restaurant game. In the spring of 2021, we're opening Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point right here in Gainesville. So we need the 5-star recruits at all the positions in the restaurant, from the front to the rear. So if you think you got what it takes to make the cut and work for us, I invite you to have a one-on-one meeting and greet with our management team on Wednesday, November 11th at Hotel Indigo at Celebration Point. Learn all about our job opportunities with the restaurant. Now let me make this clear. We're only looking for the best of the best. So if you love your job and you love the restaurant business and want to be part of the most elite team here in Gainesville, then we want you to come and learn more about this experience. With your help and the best food, drinks, and services, we'll make Spurrier's Restaurant the envy of the Bulldogs, the Seminoles, the Vols, and everybody. So we look forward to seeing you November 11th, and we plan to meet at Hotel Indigo at Celebration Point. So go to SpurrierDraft.com, fill out the application, and we'll see you then. Take care and go Gators.
Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Celebration Point's where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Tommy Hilfiger, Hotel Indigo, Nike, Skechers, Sushi Hana, and coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate. Really want to thank JC for joining us early in the program, and also Chuck Oliver from the Chuck Oliver Show. But now we're going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we are joined by Lindsey Scott. Oh, okay. We're still trying to get Lindsey on. All right. So I'm going to read a couple of Facebook Live comments here brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law partner of the Florida Gators. I want to give a shout out to our man, our team over, our middle school team over in Baker County. I think they won their championship last night. Also, we got a couple of Facebook Lives here, as I mentioned, brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Chris says, great defensive coach and kills the offense just like muscle cramp. Kirby Smart is Will Muschamp 2.0. It's funny, they're like best friends and all that good stuff. But now we're going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by Georgia Bulldog great Lindsey Scott. Good morning, Lindsey. How are you?
Morning, Shane. Doing great this morning. Doing great.
I appreciate you taking the time. You know, before we talk a little bit about your career and the Georgia Bulldogs and all that, I get to see you once a year at the Desire Cup, where it's Danny Werfel's ministry. We raise money for a great charity, great cause. Georgia Bulldogs and Florida Gators come together. You're there about every year. What's that event mean to you?
Well, it means a lot. I talk to people all the time about it, and I, we kid and we talk about football and its competition and that kind of stuff, Georgia, Florida. But I think the thing that impresses me most about even Danny in that event and that organization is that he helps a lot of kids. He helps a lot of people. And I don't know, Shane, you see now in today's world, it's sort of like a me society, but it's just a breath of fresh air when guys use their career and use their platform to help other people. And I think that Danny does a great job with that. And I'm really impressed with what he does, and I've been supporting it now for 10 years, and I really enjoyed it, and we have a good time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, Lindsey, let's talk a little bit about Lindsey Scott growing up in the state of Georgia. When you were a youngster playing high school ball, were you going to be a Georgia Bulldog no matter what, or did you think about going to a couple other schools?
No, Georgia really wasn't even on the list. I think that growing up, I doing my recruitment, which was a good experience for me. I actually had 5 schools. I took 5. I think it was 5 official visits at that time. I think maybe it's still the same. I'm not sure, but Shane, when I came around in the SEC, as a matter of fact, even Florida was running the wishbone. I'm dating myself. Florida was running the wishbone, if you can believe that or not. They always had great athletes. They were running the wishbone. Of course, Tennessee really was the only team in the SEC that was really throwing it around a little bit, and that appealed to me as a receiver. And of course, there was Clemson in South Carolina, believe it or not, and then my official visit to Florida. It was Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Clemson. And I took those official visits, and actually I committed to Johnny Majors up at Tennessee. That was going to be his first year back, and they just appealed to me as far as what they were doing and what they were offering, and just the kind of offense that they were running. And I think Georgia was running the veer at the time, and they were not throwing the ball around a whole lot. So they recruited me hard, but I actually committed to Tennessee, and eventually, I laugh at myself. Eventually, I was 17 years old, 18 years old at the time, and hell, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But eventually, I ended up changing my mind and going to Athens. But initially, I committed to Tennessee.
Okay, I got you. Well, you get to Athens, and obviously, you had a tremendous career. But let's talk about in 1980, Georgia wins their only national championship, and probably the biggest play in the history of Georgia football is Run, Lindsey, Run. Buck Bellew to Lindsey Scott. Take us back to that day, how it all unfolded, and I know you broke a lot of Gators' hearts.
Well, we were that thing was getting away from us. We came out of the gate. I mean, with Walker, we came out of the gate. Obviously, we were running the football and featuring him, but we came out of the gate, like gangbusters. I think, and actually led late into the third quarter. Actually led late into the third quarter, and then typically, like we do. And it's not a negative thing, but defenses adjust, Shane. Defenses adjust, and Florida adjusted, and they shut that run down in the second half. And what they had was they had Wayne Peace at quarterback, they had Tyrone Young, Collinsworth at receiver, and they were able to they were going stuff that we had never seen. And I think it was sort of like a beginning a trend in college football. They were going four wides, man. They were going four wides. They did have I think it was James Jones was a hell of a running back in the backfield, but they were featuring him, but they were going four wides, and they just spread that thing out. And they shut us down in the second half. They came back and they threw the ball all around the field, and we had our backs against the wall, man. We had our backs against the wall. And as a matter of fact, I think what happened that weekend was Notre Dame actually was in Atlanta playing Georgia Tech, and they were ranked. Notre Dame was actually ranked number 1 in the country. I think we were like 2, and Georgia Tech ended up tying Notre Dame. But we were able to kind of regroup there late in the ball game in the second half, and we were able to hit that thing late. But basically, Shane, what they were in a zone, a prevent zone, and we were able to hit that thing in the middle. And it's one of those plays where the defense is flowing one way and the ball goes the other way. I break one way, and you catch the defense flowing the other way. And I just had enough speed. That thing opened up to where I was able to take it the distance. But we pulled it out. But I tell you what, we had our back against the wall. They had came back, and they were getting ready to win that ball game, and we were able to pull it out there at the end.
Yeah, it's got to be the greatest play in Georgia football history, no doubt. You spoke of Herschel Walker, a freak of an athlete. Just talk briefly about what it was like playing with Herschel.
Well, he was, and of course now since Walker and probably a little bit before Walker, the SEC's always featured those backs, man. And he was one of those kids that was young, he was big, he was fast, he was physical. And he fit right into what Coach Dooley wanted to do. He fit right into what we did offensively, and that was to feature that back, man. Feature that big back, run that ball, throw it when we had to, throw it when we needed to, but basically we were gonna run the football. But great guy. He was a freshman in 1980, but he just sort of gave us that spark that we needed at running back. He was that guy that, and I think we were, what people don't realize, we were sort of like a junior and a senior laden team. So we had some guys that had played and had some experience, but we needed that big play guy, that big guy at running back, because that's what we done. That was gonna sort of make the difference for us. And he was just the perfect fit, but great guy. and he really just gave us that shot in the arm that we needed on offense.
At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. We're speaking with Lindsey Scott, Georgia Bulldog great here on the Titan MR hotline. We got a couple Facebook Live comments here brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law partner of the Florida Gators. Scott says, I wish Lindsey would have gone to Tennessee. I was a sophomore at UF when he made that play. That play seemed to last forever, and we had that game won. Yeah, and then Rick says, Ballou to Scott, the greatest moment in Georgia football history. I agree with that 100%. Lindsey, let's talk about Vince Dooley. Great coach there. What was it like playing for him?
Well, it was an experience, and coach was he was an SEC that had been around when I got to Georgia in '78. I think he was in his maybe his 14th, 15th season at Georgia when I got there, and he had a great reputation of having great football teams, discipline. I mean, he did things the right way, and he was just already for lack of a better word, he was already a legend in the SEC. He originated in Auburn, went to school at Auburn, cut his teeth under Suge Jordan over at Auburn, but he was solid, and I think that's what made the difference when you get to recruiting. It's like, he was solid, and he was going to be there. He was going to be there the whole 4 years you were there. I think that's what they pushed as far as recruiting was concerned. You had a lot of situations that were unstable at the time, like they are every year. Every school is not as stable. It's like, is the coach going to be there for 4 years? Is he going to leave, or what's going to be the situation? And that's what Georgia saw at the time. That Coach Dooley was solid. He was going to be there, and he was a guy that you were going to be able to deal with for 4 straight years without worrying about dealing with another coaching staff and other people like that. But my relationship with Coach has really grown. Probably, Shane, I'm probably closer to Coach now than I was when I played with him. I think that of course, I've grown up a little bit, and the relationship has grown over the years. But super guy. I mean, but I think that, at 17, 18, a lot of times the lessons that they're trying to give you really don't realize till you get older. But I was fortunate enough to play for Coach because that situation at Georgia was solid. He was there, and, for lack of a better word, he ran the show, and that was a good thing. He ran the show. That was a good thing,
Yep. Lindsey, so let's talk about, did you ever lose in the Florida-Georgia game?
No, I didn't. We were fortunate enough to win that game all 4 years that I was there. It was always we look forward to getting to Jacksonville. Always was a tough ball game. We won a club. Matter of fact, the score in my freshman year and in that junior year was the same score, 26-21. My sophomore year, we went in there and we won. I think it was a little bit. The score. The difference was a little bit more, but no, I played on 4 football teams that never lost to Florida. We never lost to Florida, but it was always a close ball game, and it was a ball game that always meant something. And just like it is this year, it's like, the winner goes on, and the loser sort of like, you're going to have to take that second tier bowl or whatever. But no, I was fortunate. During those times that I was there that we won every year.
Yep, and I'm the other way around. I won every year as well. So let's talk about this, Lindsey, because I don't think people, until you play in this game, you realize how different it is. I don't know if it's hatred, but when you got the stadium split in half, you come over those bridges from the hotel where all the RVs are. Now it's going to be a little bit different this year, but just talk about what it was like for you guys to play in this game every year, because it was my favorite game to play in.
Well, Shane, it's big time college football is what it is. It's big time college football, and especially like I said, it's always been that way. It's always been that way. Florida, Georgia, it's always been that way. The fan bases are they expect their team to win. They're loyal. People come down, they have a good time. And like I say, it's just big time college football. And over the years, that game has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger because, you know, it always means something. You go into that ball game and it always means something. And we went, like I said, I played on some teams that never lost to Florida, but then you get a stretch where you guys come in, they bring in Coach Spurrier, and hell, we don't win for the next 15, 20 years, you know. I think it's 15, 16 years, really. We don't win. I mean, we can't do it. And what you guys are doing and what Coach Spurrier brought in there, I think a lot of people had really never seen in that league, and he was throwing the ball around, and he just, I mean, you know, Florida, you just couldn't, Georgia couldn't beat them. They couldn't beat them. So that thing is, you got the flows and your ebbs with that ball game, but it's just big time Georgia football, man. It's like a bowl game in the middle of the season. But I think the big thing, and it always means something. It always means something, and that's no different this year. That's no different this year. But you know, with the pandemic, you know, the hoopla is going to be a little less. But you know, you got two teams in the top 10, Shane. You got two teams in the top 10 that are looking to move on. And if the team that wins, you know, your goals are still in front of you, you know. And so it you know, it hadn't really changed a whole lot. Of course, we got this situation this year with this pandemic, but it you know, it's Georgia, Florida again with a lot on the line, and you still got two rabid fan bases that are looking for their team to win, and so you know, it hadn't changed a whole lot.
Yeah. Last thing for you, Lindsey. It's a two-part question. You talked about Coach Spurrier coming in and changing the SEC football, throwing it around. Would Lindsey Scott, the great Georgia wideout, love to play for Coach Spurrier's offense? And the second question is, give me your prediction on the game Saturday.
Well, I tell Coach Spurrier that all the time. I kid with him. I've been able to see him at Danny's event the last few years, and I've told him personally myself that, Coach, I would have loved to been in that offense that you had. And you know, of course, typical Coach Spurrier said, "Yeah, we'd have had some fun, man. We'd have had some fun." And that's the response that I'm looking for. I mean, you know, those look like you guys were having fun, man.
Absolutely.
You were having fun. Going around, and you were getting everybody involved, man, and that was just something that from a receiver standpoint, that's just refreshing. But every chance I you know, the last few years I've told him, Coach, I would love to play in that offense, and he said, typical Coach Spurrier said, yeah, man, we'd had some fun, and I think that's what appealed to me, you know, especially coming from where I come from. The receivers, they really actually got involved and looked like you guys were having fun because you were throwing it around. And as far as the prediction is concerned, man, I'm concerned, Shane. I'm just concerned. I'm gonna just be straight up with you. I'm concerned. I think you know, you're a quarterback, and I think quarterback play is huge in the SEC. You know that quarterback play is huge, and I think it's, you know, right now there's some concern at quarterback play, you know, at Georgia, you know, and it's not anything against Stetson or anything, and nobody personal, but I think that the you know, the teams that have won those games, at least the last 3 years, you know, that quarterback position has made a difference. You know, we had you guys had Felipe Franks, now you got Trask in there, and Trask is scary to me. I'm just going to tell you, he's scary to me. He's scary to me because he's able to get the ball out. He's comfortable in Mullen's offense, and I think it's going to come down to quarterback play, man. It's going to come down and the Florida definitely could put points on the board, and we're beat up defensively. But as far as the prediction, man, I'm just worried. I just think it's going to be a close ball game, but I'm hoping that this defense can slow Pitts and Tony and Trash down a little bit, man, and maybe we'll have a chance. I think that the defense is going to have to slow Florida down, but offensively, if we're not able to put up some points, it's going to be a long day. I'm just going to, you know, hell, Jen, I'd be remiss if I just think it's going to be a close ball game, man, and I'm just, you know, I don't know. I probably wouldn't be able to go back to Georgia if I picked Florida. But I mean, it's just going to be a close ball game, and but if Georgia can't score any points, they're going to have problems because Trask and those guys, Pitts, they're going to put up some points. They're going to put up some points, so we got to be able to match that. And defensively, we beat up. But I'm just going to go 27-24 Georgia. But I mean, I couldn't go back home, man. I couldn't go back to Athens if I picked the Gators.
I hear you, my man. Well, that's good stuff. It should be a dang good game. We appreciate you taking the time. Run, Lindsey, run. Let's hope we don't have any run, Lindsey, run plays for the Dogs Saturday. But we appreciate it, my man, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Shane. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
All right, that's Bulldog great Lindsey Scott join us here on the Titan MR Hotline. Time has flown today, folks. Today's show is a wrap brought to you by Wrap Spot. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to you soon.